Okay, so when you're talking about the outer planes of D&D, right? We have the astral sea or the astral plane that separates everything. You have the upper planes and the lower planes, okay? And all the planes are divided into their respective alignment. So at the very tippy top of the astral planes, we have Elysium. At the very bottom, we have Hades, okay? Elysium is the pinnacle of good, the absolute emphasis on what is good in the world, okay? Hades is the pinnacle of absolute evil in the world, okay? If your alignment sticks with you are the pinnacle of good or the pinnacle of evil, you go to one of these two. Mechanus is pinnacle of law, Limbo is the pinnacle of chaos, and then everything in between is a denomination of that. So if you go to Mechanus and you're a little good, you go to Arcadia. If you're evenly split between good and lawful, aka lawful good, you go to Mount Celestia. A little bit more good than, or a little bit lawful compared to true good, like you still follow a code of conduct. Bitopia, then same with the chaotic side, the Beastlands, Arborea, Ysgard. Ysgard is pure chaos, but kind of good. Pandemonium, pure chaos, but kind of evil. The Abyss is pure chaotic evil. The Nine Hells are pure lawful good. Okay? You ask how New Devils form. And New Devils form by individuals who either A, were lawful evil in their life. Like, they are undisputedly lawful evil. Now, people might like argue like, oh, they might go to Archon, they might go to Gehenna. Who knows? But most people end up going to the Nine Hells. The other way is people like will things for the most part. Math or some shit. How could you just get fucked, nerd? Will is mostly on the chaotic good side of things. However, because he sold his soul to Mizora and has made an infernal pact, no matter how much good he does in his life, he will be sent to the Nine Hells. Unless he breaks the contract with Mizora's blessing. Will is a chaotic good individual. However, in his contract, his payment is not his soul. His payment is the services he provides for Mizora, which Mizora pretty much puts into context as good acts. However, then we get to stuff like killing Karlach, which is inherently not a good act, because Karlach is not a bad person. Now, one of the statutes is if Will ever breaks his contract, which can happen during your playthrough. Dragon looks very fitting for an academic setting. You're welcome. If Will ever breaks his contract and Mizora deems it a fitting punishment, which there are hundreds of clauses in that contract of what is a fitting punishment, then Will gets yoinked to the Nine Hells and turned into a devil. I feel like I'm used to a different layout of the planes, but I couldn't tell you what layout I'm used to. There are ways for people to become elementals and to become Fae and to become like denizens of the Shadowfell and all that kind of stuff, but that's a lot more like hands-on, right? Like when you're going to the upper or lower planes, it is the end of your life. This is where you go. You get turned into everything that exists in the middle here. If you live too long in the Shadowfell, you become part of the Shadowfell. If you get like ritual contracted with a hag, or like, you know, why a lot of Fae make like, oh, if you give me your firstborn child, it's mainly to make them into more Fae. That's why elves are like kind of Fae, is because they are more aligned with the Feywild than they are the material plane. And then the elements, you can technically become an elemental. It's just a really, really bass-ackwards like process to do so, if that makes sense. So you can become an elemental, but it's not easy per se. And then there is the positive plane, and then there's a negative plane. However, if you go to either of these, you die. You either get seared alive or your soul gets ripped apart. There is no in between. And then technically in like the corner over here, we have the Far Realms, which is where mind flayers and shit come from. and they are not a part of this system. So when people say, like, oh, you getting turned into a mind flayer destroys your soul, that's why. It's because they're not a part of the internal system, and when you get turned into a mind flayer, your soul gets put into the system of the far realm, which people don't comprehend. I hope that answers your question, and I slowly watched the viewer count go down as I explained that.